Alright, Palico, Monster Hunter Wilds is here. After 4 years, it's time to go on another adventure. Yeah, I know you're hungry, but don't worry. We'll celebrate with food after we capture this next monster. Oh yeah! We're not really capture, we're gonna hunt. Hunting is always way more fun than capturing. Alright, and we get to use their body parts to create more cool gear. Let's go out and fight those evil things. Wait, are they actually evil, or is this some sort of like Shadow of the Colossus thing where we're not actually evil, we're actually just killing them because we have to. But hey, we have no girlfriend to resurrect, so yeah, this is gonna be so much fun. Now let's see, what monster should we fight? I'm thinking maybe an electric type, those are usually the toughest ones, but yeah. Let's see, monster.
Matthew's lame for liking Bluey. 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 Matthew's lame for liking Bluey.
It's monster hunting time.
Wait!
How does it feel, Pikachu? How does it feel? To be stuck to my butt for the rest of your life? Peter's gonna sue me, but I don't care. I still got about a dozen hours before I finish this, so hey. Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis Mew once again. Welcome back to another video game review, my first game review of 2025. We're already in March, and yeah, I still have a lot of games to catch up on. But yeah, first game I'm going to be talking about, of course, is Monster Hunter Wilds, the latest installment in the highly popular Monster Hunter franchise, where you return once again as a hunter. You and your Palico go across the lands to hunt down more monsters, while also having a storyline that feels far more cinematic than some of the previous events of, the Monster Hunter franchise. But of course, if that's not really your thing, that's okay, because just like the previous entries, there is plenty to work with when it comes to hunting down those big monsters and using their parts to create and upgrade new weapons for you. Now, I have grown very big into the Monster Hunter franchise. I have first started off with Monster Hunter 4 for the 3DS, then Monster Hunter Worlds, then Monster Hunter Rise for the Switch, and come to think of it, there's actually more games than that. So I wouldn't say I'm entirely big, but I have played more than enough of the franchise to know exactly what I'm getting into. So if you're very familiar with this franchise, chances are you are going to get sucked in instantly with this game. Though the one thing that people have kind of complained about a little bit about this new entry is the fact that they think that the game is too easy. When I started playing the game, I didn't agree. I got my ass handed to me quite a bit. I got major portions of my health taken off when starting up these battles. Though I will admit, the only time I truly failed a quest was once. And I didn't really see myself dying a whole lot, rather than, fainting a few times before finally being able to hunt down those monsters. So, yeah, but when I started getting better gear when it comes to those quests, I could definitely notice the difficulty not being too challenging as some of the other entries to come out in the previous events of the Monster Hunter franchise. Now, like I mentioned before, the game is far more cinematic, and I like the fact that, it tries to get you to connect more with the characters that it introduces, and it has some pretty interesting ones. There's Alma, who's the one that gives you your quests throughout your journey, and there's Gamma, who basically creates the weapons for you, who's also pretty cool, as well as, other people who are part of this, homeland when you go throughout your journey that, tries to get you to connect with the story, but it's very basic. But, of course, that's not really an issue, because Monster Hunter, when did you ever really care about the story? Like, it doesn't have a story Like, none of the games really has a story like, oh, did you remember the one part of that storyline? I really like what they did there. Because, like I mentioned before, you came here to hunt monsters. And Capcom really does a great job when it comes to bringing these monsters to life in very creative fashions while also punishing you once in a while. But like I mentioned before, it certainly does have its fair share of not so challenging moments, because there is this new system that they have called the wound system, where when a wound opens up from a monster, you can do more amounts of damage while also getting bonus parts, which I thought was a very unique feature. I also like the fact that you have like a grappling hook, so you can just go and grab those specific items that are right over there rather than just walking around and going over to pick it up. I thought it was far more helpful this time around. And yeah, well, I definitely noticed when people say how, the game definitely feels a bit too easy. There really isn't a part to the game where the game just feels like a complete breeze, because after being the main story, which took roughly around like 12 hours, at least when I was playing the game, do not let that fool you, because there is plenty more story content after the credits. I took more time after the game, or after the credits, more than before the credits. So there's still a good amount of content, even though people have stated that it's not as much content as something like Monster Hunter World. But of course, they are going to be adding in new features later down the line with some new monsters. It's during specific months. Like, it's not like going to be happening like countlessly, though. As it stands right now, for $70, despite the fact it doesn't have as much content as some of the previous entries, it does seem a little bit too heavy on the price, because when playing it, yeah, I could notice that it doesn't have as much content as that, because like I mentioned before, the story is shorter than some of the previous entries. But hey, the game still gives you a good amount of side content to do, and there's also plenty more story-driven content after the credits roll. So in total, I had nearly about 30 hours of gameplay, and I still haven't done everything that the game has to offer. Once I knew for sure that I finished the main story, like every single main chapter to the game, there was still a good amount of side content to do. And of course, when it comes to hunting down monsters, the best way to play is with your friends. And even though it is nice having other hunters throughout your journey, none of them can beat Palico, in my opinion. Not because they're helpful, but just due to the fact that it's a cat that comes with you throughout your journey. And even though it doesn't really do a whole lot, it's still nice to have once in a while. Though there was a little glitch where sometimes my Palico was talking, but then in other parts it wasn't. But they did patch that out. Also, there is customizable options for your character's voice. I wasn't really too pleased with the voice I picked.
Be it back home or in a forbidden land. If I see water, I know what I'm doing.
Is it fishing?
It is! You're a sharp one.
But hey, maybe it's just me. But I do appreciate how there are multiple different actors for the different types of voices you can choose from. I also love how when you go into your tent, there's like a little animation of you playing with your Palico, which is always nice to see. But of course, it's still always nice to have those other companions throughout your journey. When you unleash your SOS flare, sometimes it can be a little bit hard for, other people to join your quest, other than, your basic allies that can help you throughout your journey, which can be helpful. Like, when you're nearly low on HP, they'll help you out with bringing in some extra health for you. But really, though, the best way to play is with friends, because you're definitely going to get that whole Monster Hunter experience when you do play online with friends, because really, that's exactly what these games were made for. Exploring these open lands, fighting these monsters with allies accompanying you throughout your journey, getting in that big, powerful weapon. And when it comes to the combat, for newcomers, it's definitely hard to get used to, but because this is one of the less frustrating entries, at least until it gets later on in the storyline, then I feel like this is definitely a great game to start off with newcomers to the franchise. But if you're very familiar with the mechanics and stuff and still feel like the game is still too easy, then, well, Capcom has stated that they will add in an update to boost up that challenge a little bit. But for me, I didn't really care if the game was too easy or too difficult, because I was still able to, have fun with the game. as long as you're having fun playing online with other people, then really, that's what should really matter. I mean, when this game launched, it had over 1 million players at launch day, and 8 million players, over 8 million players, 3 days after launch, which is already impressive. So it goes to show that people are still supporting this franchise. Now, if you are playing on PC, you are definitely going to run into more technical problems, but because I played on PS5, of course, I didn't really have too many problems. Like, sometimes, even when it runs at 60 FPS, sometimes it still doesn't always seem that way. But of course, some of the best games ever made, like Elden Ring, had problems on PC, but that didn't stop the game from becoming Game of the Year in 2022. And hey, things did manage to get fixed with that, so chances are things will get fixed with the PC version as well. But because I was playing on consoles, I didn't really have much to complain about in terms of its performance. But in the end, guys, I had an absolute blast with Monster Hunter Wilds, and Capcom has shown that it still has a deep love with this franchise. Even though it doesn't have as much content as some of the previous entries, and even though it doesn't have as much challenge as some of the previous entries, the experience and the new amount of monsters that it has, and trying to find that unique weapon to take on that monster with, it still has that same addictive nature as the previous entries. And adding in that new storyline with truly phenomenal cinematics. I love how every time a new part of the chapter comes in, there's always a new monster. There is far more monster hunting quests than something like fetch quests, and there are a good amount of fetch quests too, as well as fishing quests, but I never really did those because the first time I tried it, it took me like 30 minutes to get a fish, and I was absolutely struggling, so I just completely ignored those quests. And with new updates, chances are Capcom is going to make it even better. But as it stands right now, I still think the game is worth playing. But if you're still not sure, maybe wait for a price drop, because $70 for a game that is relatively shorter than some of the previous entries is asking for a bit much. But I still managed to get my time's worth spent with this game, and by the end of it, I had myself an absolute blast, and I do see myself wanting to go back to it to do that other stuff that I didn't manage to do. There's still plenty of optional monster hunting quests, which is basically some of the same monsters that you fought previously, just at higher difficulties, but still, I had a blast with this game, and there was rarely ever a time when I was having fun, except sometimes when it comes to the mechanics, it can still be a struggle once in a while, but just find the right weapon for you throughout the journey that you're going on throughout this world, because the exploration isn't that difficult either. I really like how it's, when you're on, like, your creature or whatever that you ride on, it basically takes you to that creature without you having to struggle and waste your time trying to find that monster that you're trying to hunt down for during your quests. That way, you're not fully wasting time. All I can say is this game certainly did not disappoint me, and I truly enjoyed exploring these wilds. There is plenty to love about this game, so even if you're not a fan of the easy challenge, I honestly felt like even with some of the strongest armor I got, there was still, I still got my ass handed to me so many times, because there are enemies or monsters, big monsters, that were able to wipe me out in just 1 or 2 hits, so there's still a good amount of challenge here. I don't recommend worrying about it, and because Capcom has stated that they will update the challenge, there's still plenty of reason for you to go out and play it if you've been a longtime fan of this franchise. There is a lot to enjoy about the game. And for newcomers, if you're kind of relieved about the challenge, then it's great for new people to want to get into the series, because really, you can start off with any Monster Hunter game, really, because the story is by far the least most memorable thing about this franchise. So just start with either one, and you'll instantly get into it. Though it definitely does take some time to get used to. I feel like finding the right weapon for your journey, which one you're most comfortable with, that's truly what's going to sell it for you. But yeah, I recommend checking this one out. Now I have to get to work. I need to find another player to help me out with Split Fiction. I just picked up that game, and I really want to play it because I absolutely loved It Takes Two. So yeah, but I know when I do find another player, I'm probably going to have an absolute blast with it. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. Of course, you can also follow me on Twitter or X, Instagram, or Blue Sky. Check me out on either one of those. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.